Excuse me. Excuse me. Well, come up. Okay. Hello, welcome to the Vintage Girl Next Door. My name is Laci, and today we are doing the most requested video ever on my channel. We're doing a house tour. So I am excited to show you my vintage home, and I hope that you enjoy. Well, let's go inside. And this video is actually sponsored by June's Journey. June's Journey is a mobile game where you find hidden objects placed inside beautiful scenes set in the 1920s. So I'm going to talk more about that later, but that leads me to our game. So I thought it would be fun for us to do our own little hidden object game while we tour my house. So I'm going to have you look for the following items: a Coke bottle, a strawberry, some boxing gloves, a Disney plate, and a lobster. So if you find those objects, comment below, and then at the very end I will leave some little hints as to where they were in the tour. Without further ado, let's get started. So there's kind of a lot to show you, and so this is probably going to be episode 1, and I'm going to break it up into a few different episodes of the house tour. So we'll go with the first 3 rooms to start with, and then we will move on and I will do another house tour very soon and show you some more. Our house was built in 1953, and luckily it's remained basically the same. Nobody's altered anything or modernized anything, which is great. The first thing I stopped at is this grandfather clock, and this one is a special one because it belonged to my grandparents, and it was given to them for Christmas by their children. So my mom and all of her brothers and sisters gave my grandparents this clock in the mid-70s. So where it's not necessarily 50s, but it is a classic piece and special family piece, I wanted to make sure that it was included in the home tour. Okay, let's move into the living room. So this is our little living room area. I did want to mention that probably at least 90% of all of our things are either thrifted or gifts from family and friends. So we have not acquired all of these things overnight. This has been a journey for us. We've lived here since 2014, and so we've been collecting since then. So just keep that in mind. I wanted to show you this turquoise lamp. It is one of my favorite pieces. I love the little flamey lights. They are so cool. The whole thing is just the epitome of 1950s atomic to me. I love the 2 level of the lampshade. The whole thing is just great. It's one of my favorite things, and that I found actually at an antique store. And then our pink couches are also from kind of thrifted. They were from the Facebook Marketplace. Thrifted, antique store, basically thrifted, yard sale. These are not. The pillows that we have are actually modern, like vintage reproduction, and they have them at Target. So check out Target if you like these little pillows. Let's move on to the rest of the living room. Okay, the next piece I wanted to show you is our Broyhill Brasilia credenza. And if you watched my Q&A video, you know the story of how we got those babies. And if you have not, then you're gonna wanna check out that video because it's a really fun story of how we came across these pieces. Some swung glass And I also have had quite a few questions about my record player, and this one was a gift from my husband for Christmas, and it is a vintage reproduction, so you can actually find this on Amazon. And anything that you can find now, I will link below so that you guys can check it out if you feel like you want to. So yeah, this is a Victrola brand record player, and I really like it. It's been a lot of fun to be able to start listening to records in our home. This area is one of those little built-in nooks that I was talking about that I feel like really adds a lot of charm to a vintage home. And it's kind of like a bookcase area. We have a lot of our camera collection in here. We collect vintage cameras and also vintage video cameras. Those are in there, along with some of our books that we like to take a look at every once in a while. And then this bottom is also filled with books as well. And we have our attention pole light that I thrifted. Also behind me you will see our little starburst mirrors, and those are also modern reproduction, which I believe you can find at Target. So if they're still there, I will link them. Let's just step over here to the mantle. So our home is equipped with a wood-burning stove, which we do use in the winter time, and it heats the whole upstairs really well. So yeah, that's really nice. And then the piece I wanted to kind of highlight is my atomic shadow box. And this is a recent acquisition. It's been maybe 6 months ago that we got this, and we found it on Facebook Marketplace, if you can believe it. In our little town, there was someone selling one, and yeah, we couldn't believe our luck. And it has its issues. We need to kind of refinish it. It's missing some glass, and it has been painted. We may change that in the future, but I still am in love with it. This was one of my unicorn items that was on my wish list since we've bought our home. So yeah, this was a super amazing find, and I'm so happy to have it. So as you can see, it is filled with mostly kitties. You will sense a theme throughout this house with the kitties. But all of these are thrifted. Everything in this box is thrifted or yard sale stuff. This cute one cost me a whole $1. And I love it. She's the most fabulous springtime kitty you've ever seen. Let's go ahead and continue on down the line. More of my swung glass. Next up on our tour is our vintage television. So I've had a ton of questions about this TV, and I'm hopefully going to answer all of them right now. It is a Motorola Quasar 2 model, which is a mid-60s TV. I do know that. It was gifted to me by my friend. It was her grandma's TV, and I still love it. It still has a wonderful mid-century design. It turns, I'll show you, you can pivot depending on where you're sitting. Here is the thing. When we got the TV, it was all intact and it did work, kind of. The picture was super green, like no matter what we did to adjust it was green, and also not great. Like it jumped around a lot. It was done basically. And so what we decided to do to keep the vintage feel, my husband ended up gutting out the inside with the old tube, taking that out, and we bought I believe it's a 28-inch Vizio flat screen smart TV and put it inside. And so we retrofit the modern TV inside the vintage TV, so it works like a charm. We can watch streaming or whatever we want to do, but it still looks really cute and fits in the room with the vintage style. Eventually I would love to get a 50s model TV, but until then I think this works great, and I think that it matches. Also, this Lazy Susan was the first vintage item that we bought for our home after we moved in. Our neighbors just a few houses up were doing a yard sale, and they sold us this Lazy Susan for $1. It's pretty special. It is California pottery, made in the USA, and I love the turquoise and like the brushed look of it. And that's a special one because it was our first purchase for our new home. This is my little poodle TV lamp. He was thrifted as well. And that brings us to the room divider full of kitties. It is one of my favorite parts of the house, one of my favorite built-ins. So the bottom of it is a bookcase, has cupboard under there, and then this part is for all the kitties. So all of these beautiful kitties were thrifted, and then at the top we have the birds, which were also thrifted. Yeah, atomic kitties are one of my favorite things to collect, like these really pretty ones. I have quite a few of them, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon, so I'm sure I'm gonna get more here in the future. Let's move on to the next section of the house. Next stop on the tour is our piano starburst wall. So I actually play the piano. I took lessons for at least 12 years, I want to say. I don't play as often as I would like to, but this is the piano I learned on when I started playing when I was like 8 years old. So that's kind of fun. My mom gave it to me. The stool is also a family heirloom from on my husband's side of the family. And let me see, the rest of this stuff is all thrifted. These sconces were a gift for Christmas from my sister-in-law, and the starburst clock also came from my friend's grandma, same as the TV. Okay, let's move into the dining area. Here is our little dining room nook. Our chairs are thrifted, and our table was payment for doing a music video, interestingly enough. I did not sing in the video, I acted in the video. These all are modern reproduction. The urchins are at Target, and the sunburst I believe we got at TJ Maxx. So yeah, I will link those if I can for you. And this is our little dining room. Let's just move across the room here and I will show you my hutch. Okay, next stop on our tour is my vintage hutch. And this is a mid-century piece. It was given to me by my old across the street neighbor, and she was so kind to give it to me when she moved away. And I use it to house my Pyrex collection. And I usually just switch them out every season or so. So the one's on display now, but the bottom is also filled with more Pyrex that's not on display. So let me know if you want to see a full Pyrex collection. I can definitely put that on the list if you would like. And so now we are going to move on, and the next stop on the tour is this amazing chandelier. So this is also been on my list ever since we bought the house. It did not come with it, unfortunately. This is a vintage reproduction piece, and you can actually get it on Amazon. So I will for sure link that for you below so that you can check it out if you want to, but I am in love with it. It is the most spacey atomic light fixture in all the land. Eventually we will replace the modern bulbs with the vintage style bulbs that they used to have, and they also look like a starburst, the bulbs do. So those are on the list to get still. I love it so much, and it puts out a lot of light, which is great too. Okay, next stop on the tour. I just wanted to show you this awesome glass brick window. I love it. It brings a lot of light into the room. And then I also have some of my swung glass on display here. I think it looks really pretty with the light coming through and hitting it. So I like to have it right there. Next, we are moving on into the kitchen. Okay, I did have some questions about the color of paint that we used in the kitchen. and I don't remember the exact shade, but we did get it at Sherwin-Williams and it was part of their vintage collection. In fact, I showed the guy a vintage ad from Sherwin-Williams with the color, and he still had it, they still had it in their system, so he could mix it, which was really cool. So next I wanted to show you my vintage Costco cart, and my husband refinished it for me with this beautiful turquoise paint, and I have some of my Pyrex on here, Lazy Susan, and then my Easter lilies and my little succulent plant. But this piece of Pyrex is actually really special because it belonged to my grandma, and I believe she got it for her wedding. I'm not positive there, but I've seen her use it for a million years and she gave it to me, so I'm super happy to have it. So I will just walk around the kitchen and kind of show you what is going on in here. So above us, all around the room, is my copper mold collection, and all of these are thrifted, and there is even more that is not put out because we didn't have space. So all of our cabinets are original to the home. The only thing that isn't is the sink itself was added afterwards, and also the dishwasher is modern as well, but our countertops and the cupboards themselves are vintage. So another thing that I find really hard to come by are vintage curtains, and so I actually just made mine, and I found the fabric from Joann's, I believe, and then I just made my own because I couldn't find any that I love. Let's step over here and I will show you the countertop area. Our toaster, that was a gift, and my canisters were also a gift. My husband found those on Etsy. And then this is our ice grinder, Sears ice grinder. That was thrifted and it works. Also, our kitchen wall clock back here, we found, I believe, at TJ Maxx. If I can find a link, then I will leave that for you in the description. Okay, let's move and show you my vintage fridge. It is a vintage Cold Spot, 1955. I love the handle. It reminds me of like a walk-in freezer or deep freeze or something. So I'm not gonna open the fridge. That is for another video. I'm not gonna spoil it too much, but there is a fun vintage gadget coming up that is going to show you a lot more of this awesome appliance. And on top is some more Pyrex. This was gifted to me by my husband's cousin. It is a super special piece. It was one of the first pieces of Pyrex that I ever had, and it's a super collectible one, the hot air balloon. I'll show you more of the original cabinet design that I find really cool and interesting is this one. And they've made use of every possible space in here, and it is a Lazy Susan inside. So you can see all of our clutter. But since our kitchen upstairs is very small, it's nice to have that storage space. So you heard me right, our kitchen upstairs. So our home actually has two kitchens, and there's another kitchen in our basement. It's called a canning kitchen, and it's actually bigger than this one. But it's just kind of odd to try to cook down there. So I typically use this kitchen, but that will come in a future video. We are still working on our basement and to get it kind of where we want it to be decorations wise, and so that will be coming later. But let's move on and talk about this microwave. So I know that most families did not have a microwave in the 50s. It was very expensive. They did exist, but they cost about the equivalent today of around like $11,000 to have one in your home. So crazy expensive if you had one. So I know that this is not exactly period correct, but who doesn't need a microwave? It's impossible. So I have this awesome retro one, and my mom gave it to us for Christmas, and she found it on Amazon. So that I can link for you if you are interested. Got my vintage cookbooks, on either side of it, and I do have more of a cookbook collection, but these are just the ones that I've got out on display. So another thing I really love about our home is the vintage fixtures. So there's actually a built-in fan over the oven that is original to the home. It works. Turn it on for you. So that kind of takes the place of a hood, like what you would have a hood over your stove. And then the vintage light fixtures, everything in here, like I mentioned, is pretty much original to the home, which is really, really nice and fun. We will move on to one of my favorite pieces, appliances, whatever, in our home. This is our vintage 1955 Kelvinator stove. And it does not get cooler than this in my mind. Anyway, the light works, all of it works perfectly. All of the burners, the wiring, everything is intact. And this is a fun story. I'll tell you this story really quick of where we got this stove. So before we moved into this house, before we even made an offer on this house, I was driving my son to school, and on the corner of this street, in the person's driveway, was the stove. And I didn't know what they were doing with it, if they were selling it, if they were like throwing it away. I had no idea. So I wrote a note and I taped it to the stove in their driveway with my name and phone number saying that I wanted it. And they called me. And so I bought the stove from them for $100, bargain. And I could not be happier. It is amazing. The key feature on this stove, the marketing tactic at the time, was that it had a timer on it to start and stop cooking. So like you could put a pie or your breakfast or whatever in the oven and say what time you wanted it to start cooking and what time you wanted it to stop cooking. And basically it's like you had an automated stove that would you could wake up and have your breakfast all ready and hot in the oven when you got up. I don't know that I would dare do that, honestly. I feel like that's a little bit dangerous, but I mean, it was all about the gadgets and all about kind of the gimmicks of the time and what's modern and what's new. And so that's kind of was the fun feature of this stove. So that is part one of the home tour. And as I mentioned, this video was sponsored by June's Journey, and it is a beautiful mobile game. It is free, and it features the main character, June, and she is trying to solve the murder of her sister and her brother-in-law with the help of her niece. The way it works is you go through the game, you find the hidden objects like I mentioned, and that gives you clues about solving the murder. You can also earn points, which translates into money, and you can build up your little estate on the island. So that's another kind of layer of fun things with it. I love playing this game kind of just to unwind at the end of the day. Like, it's fun. If you like hidden pictures, you will love it. You can find all of them. The scenes are beautiful. With what's going on in the world today, sometimes you need to take your mind off things and not focus on negativity, and this is a great way to do that. It's also fun to try to get a high score and find the objects as quickly as possible. I really enjoy that. So a big thank you to June's Journey for sponsoring this video. I sure appreciate that. And if you guys want to check it out, I will leave my link below. I don't get money from the link, it's just so that they know that you came from my video. So if you want to download it and play with me, that would be fun. My username is Laci Fay, so you can see me on there playing if you want to join in the fun. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for coming on a tour of my home. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Also, did you find the hidden objects? Because that was part of this as well. So comment below if you found the hidden objects. We had the Coke bottle, the strawberry, the Disney plate, the boxing gloves, and the lobster. So I want to know, did you find them before spoilers come? So that is it for this video. I hope that you are all doing well and that you are safe. I sure appreciate you being here. If you have not subscribed already, please do so. I would love to have you around for more of our vintage fun, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!